afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming along today to our Rapid Recovery semi-finalist announcement event. We're exceedingly sad that we can't see you all in person and experience the hustle and bustle and nervous anticipation that an in real life event provides. But we are also very, very happy to take this moment to emulate what excitement we can and to help you to all get to know a little bit more about the Rapid Recovery Challenge and to meet the fantastic 14 semi-finalist organisations who have been selected to take part. The aim of the Rapid Recovery Challenge is to support tools and services that improve access to jobs and money for people across the UK, focusing on those hardest hit by the economic shock resulting from COVID-19. The aim of the challenge is to support 1 million people by 2023. The 14 solutions that we are supporting form an important piece of the recovery puzzle, sitting alongside an emerging ecosystem of charities, government bodies, and businesses across the country who have risen to the need. To select our 14 innovators from a pool of 150 applications, we assembled a panel of expert judges to sift through, debate, and select the 14 semi-finalists who we were excited to announce officially yesterday. Over the next 4 months, our 14 semi-finalist innovators will participate in the first stage of the challenge. They will develop, plan, and start to implement scaling strategies to take their innovative solutions to as wide a user base as possible, reaching communities and individuals across the UK who need this support most. We'll provide our innovators not only with funding, but also with a specialist support package to help them get to those users at speed and scale. We're really pleased to be doing this with our partners, JPMorgan Chase, Money and Pensions Service, and as we announced yesterday, the Department for Work and Pensions. So, this afternoon, I'm firstly going to hand over to Ravi Gurumurthy, our CEO, in just one moment. Then we'll get a chance to hear from our 14 innovators. We'll then move into a discussion chaired by Tris Dyson, the Managing Director of Nesta Challenges, who'll be speaking to a number of our expert judges as they discuss our innovators, their innovations, and how they fit into the problem landscape. We'll then close on hearing from our innovators again and the impact they are aiming to have as part of the Rapid Recovery Challenge. Please feel free to take the conversation and debate online with the hashtag Rapid Recovery Challenge. Go and learn more about our innovators at rapidrecovery.challenges.org and follow us on Twitter at Nesta Challenges. I'll now hand over to Ravi. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you, Carmel, and thank you everybody for joining us today. As Carmel said, we're so sorry not to be able to do this in person and celebrate the 14 semi-finalist innovators for this Rapid Recovery Challenge. I really feel like these innovators can form a really big part of the recovery puzzle in supporting access to jobs and money for those impacted economically by COVID-19. I'm particularly glad to have here both a panel who can talk about work and skills and finance and discuss some of the insights that are going to be relevant to this challenge, but also to have the different innovators that we've recorded who'll be able to share what they're doing and you'll be able to learn about the potential impact they can make. I'm going to be very brief and say a bit about why we're doing this and what we're trying to achieve. So the main aim of the Rapid Recovery Challenge is to find, adapt, and rapidly scale innovations that can improve access to jobs and money for people in the UK hardest hit by the economic shock resulting from COVID. The challenge is really in part about scale. So how can we accelerate innovations that support 1 million people across the UK by 2023? And this £3 million challenge is funded by Nesta, but also in partnership with JPMorgan Chase Foundation, the Department of Work and Pensions, and the Money and Pensions Service. And we're really grateful to those partners, not just for their resources, but also for their skills and insights into how we actually make this successful. So why are we doing this? I mean, in some ways, the answer is blindingly obvious. Unlike many of our challenges, I probably don't need to explain to you the state of the economic shock that has been created by COVID-19, on top of actually a decade of quite difficult circumstances for many people due to low incomes, precarious work, and rising inequality. What I would say, however, is that this is, although we're now starting to become more optimistic about the potential for a vaccine to be rolled out in the first half of 2021, the economic dislocation and repercussions are likely to go on for longer. So we're likely to see, I think, over the next 2 years in particular, a very uncertain recovery, considerable economic challenge for certain sectors, with certain places and people disproportionately affected. And obviously with Brexit as well, I think the dislocation is going to be quite acute. But as well as doing this because of the big problem, we're also doing this because we feel real hope that change is possible. And the reason we feel confident is because we've been doing a lot of challenges in this space, like the Career Tech Challenge and Open Up and the Affordable Credit Challenge, which have all given us quite a lot of insight into what the state of innovation is like in labour markets and financial inclusion and what is possible. Now, for instance, through our Career Tech Challenge, we've been seeing novel labour market data being used to improve the accuracy, availability and user focus of career information, advice and guidance tools. Our own Open Jobs data team have been developing an algorithm that uses novel data sources, for instance, scraping data from job ads to help guide career transitions for workers at risk of automation. So we've got some insights, I think, into why we think change and greater impact is possible in the jobs area, but also in our work on finance. So the Open Up and Affordable Credit Challenges have tackled head-on the need to innovate in the responsible credit sector and make open banking technology work for more consumers. And particularly exciting has been the collaboration between governments, regulators, fintechs, and community lenders working together, driving innovation in this space. So what are we looking to do and achieve here? I've already said that the big goal is 1 million people accessing these innovations across the UK by 2023. But just to unpack almost more qualitatively, what are we looking for? I'd go back to some of the things that I look for in any innovation, actually. And those are 4 things. One, does it really clearly solve a problem? And what's great about many of the innovators that you're going to see and hear from is that it's really clear what problem they're solving. Sometimes it's very specific and niche. Sometimes it's for a very particular group of people, but it's absolutely in no way the usual problem that you sometimes have of solutions looking for a problem. This is very, very driven by need. Secondly, does it really add value to what exists already? And we're not looking for things that are entirely new. In fact, many of the best innovations are based on borrowing and adapting and repurposing existing solutions. And what we're looking for really are ways of making sure that what is created is distinct and added value to what's already out there. Thirdly, critically, we need to be able to prove that we actually have impact. Now, many of the organizations we're talking about today are in their early stages, and it'd be inappropriate to ask for the most exacting standards of evidence right now. You don't want to kill innovation by asking them to do an RCT, a randomized control trial from the beginning. But what I would be doing is urging each of them to be pushing the boundaries on what is possible with regards to building evidence of impact, so that at some point we can really trace the causal impact back to these particular interventions. And fourth, and this is what I would particularly stress is unique about this challenge, is that we're looking for organizations that can scale and can do so urgently, and scale so that they match the size and urgency of the problem. And as part of that desire for scale, we're going to be working not just with the 14 innovators that you'll hear from, but also engaging with organizations up and down the country who are working with frontline users most in need of solutions like these. And in January, we're going to be publishing details of the accompanying work that we're going to do to try to actually help these solutions get to market and get to scale so that we can achieve that target of 1 million people by September 20, of 1 million people. So without further ado, I want to say thank you again. It's great to have you all here to learn more about the challenge and our approach. Thank you again to our fantastic partners at JPMorgan Chase, at the Department of Work and Pensions and the Money and Pensions Service. And we do hope that you continue to watch the journey of our innovators, follow them closely, connect with our team if you're interested in learning more. So with that, I'll hand back over and hope you enjoyed the rest of the presentations.
Hello, we are Beam, and our solution, the Beam Hub, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by making it simple for anyone to access practical careers guidance that's based on real job opportunities in their local area. All they need is a smartphone and an internet connection. Beam's crowdfunding platform means that we can provide these items for any job seeker in need, as well as other resources like training or childcare. With the impact of COVID-19, flexible, accessible support like the Beam Hub is going to be more important than ever for reaching and empowering vulnerable communities.
Hello, we are Even Break, and our solution, supporting disabled candidates, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by offering disabled people who have been disproportionately affected by the COVID crisis access to tailored, flexible support to help them gain sustainable and meaningful employment, delivered by qualified careers consultants with lived experience of the disabling barriers they face.
Hi, we are City and Guilds and FutureLearn, and our solution of Skills Bridges helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle. We will be unlocking job opportunities where the demand for talent is great, for example in the care industry, and ensuring individuals have the understanding of what it takes to succeed in these jobs. Our solution helps bridge people out of work to where the vacancies are. This is all about making the invisible visible through online learning opportunities.
Hello, we at Money Dashboard and our solution Spend and Plan, the cash survival tool, help to solve the piece of the recovery puzzle by prompting vulnerable people to get in control of their money. The tool uses machine learning technology to detect regular upcoming payments, enabling a forecasted cash position to be built with minimum user intervention. Spend and Plan further nudges people to save more, reduce debt, and budget effectively. By using Spend and Plan, people can spend on the things most important to them and avoid any unnecessary expenses.
Hello, we're Nesta, and our solution, Rebuilding Financial Resilience One Step at a Time, helps solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by developing our app for COVID-19, helping people avoid backward steps that worsen financial health. Problems start with the loss of income. Whilst waiting for tax credits or work, credit cards and overdrafts fund essential purchases. With reduced incomes, it's hard to make credit repayments, arrears accumulate, credit scores tumble, legal action might commence. It becomes impossible to get credit from mainstream lenders. Consequently, people turn to high-cost credit. Our app helps people avoid these backward steps and rebuild their financial health.
Hello, we're Policy and Practice, and our solution is the My Benefit Calculator app. It helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by giving people whose finances have been hit by COVID-19 a tool to help them navigate the complex benefits system. Over £10 billion of benefits goes unclaimed each year. Our app will help you to access all of the support that you're eligible for and help you to get back on your feet faster. If you're claiming universal credit, your income can vary each month because universal credit flexes according to your earnings. Knowing how much universal credit you're likely to get next month will make it easier for you to manage your money and help you to avoid falling into debt.
Hello, we are Resume Foundation, and our solution, working with Prosper for Business and its bridgeofhope.careers career portal, helps us to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by marrying leading-edge tailored training and support for individuals with a groundbreaking careers portal for marginalised people. This is transformational. It is the way to enable people without a job to get one and others to transition into a career.
Hello, we're Sort, and our solution, our online careers platform, sortyourfuture.com, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by helping young people discover the jobs and opportunities available to them with the transferable skills they have right now, while also supporting them to upskill rapidly and prepare for their futures in careers they will love.
Hello, we're UDrafter, and our rapid recovery solution for students and graduates helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by removing the who-you-know barriers to work experience. UDrafter helps young people to access paid micro-internships and work experience projects offered by UK businesses. Micro-internships are the key ingredient to help young people showcase their value to employers through short pieces of work, and statistically, this is more likely to lead to full-time employment after an initial engagement compared to a direct full-time hire.
Hello, we're UK Youth, and our solution, empowering financial capability through digital youth work, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by reaching young people, including younger workers from disadvantaged backgrounds who've been hardest hit by the economic shock of the pandemic, and providing them with the support to manage their finances through empowering education and the support of a youth worker in their community. Without the right guidance, young people are at risk of making uninformed decisions, using higher cost credit, payday loans, or falling for scams. Our solution would provide them with engaging support at the right time in the right way through the channels they know and trust.
Hello, we are Hastee, and our solution, financial health and productivity through earnings on demand, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by providing 18 to 24-year-olds with a bespoke financial education platform within a new app that will be completely free for a year for all 16 to 24-year-olds in the UK. This will be live and will be getting to the hands of thousands of users in a matter of just a few months. As we progress through the future rounds of the challenge, we will rapidly scale this solution to hundreds of thousands of young people, integrate platforms, partners and employers to make earnings on demand accessible to the challenge's target segments, and further develop the app.
Hello, we're Turn to Us, and our solution, digital grant delivery to financially vulnerable users, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by helping people quickly and easily access a financial cushion to protect them. 1 in 3 households have reported a fall in income as a result of the pandemic, and millions face mounting debt, falling behind on rent and bill payments. Unfortunately, existing financial support solutions have not been set up to cope with the speed and scale required. Without swift and timely financial support, users facing a short-term shock are likely to enter a longer-term financial crisis that is difficult to escape.
Hello, we're Income Max, and our solution, Income Max Digital, helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by helping UK citizens maximise their income and take control of their finances. It's impossible to thrive if you don't have enough money to live on, but millions of people miss out each year on income they're entitled to. Our solution will put income maximisation at the heart of financial well-being, giving more people a chance to thrive. Income Max Digital will provide a human-centred approach to income maximisation as the country looks to bounce back and rebuild better.
Hello, we are One Tech and the Collective Foundation, and our solution TriTech helps to solve a piece of the recovery puzzle by working with young people in insecure or low-paid jobs to access free support to secure knowledge-based roles in tech startups. Our innovative online platform provides access to curated content and intensive support and matches individuals to live roles.
Was great to see. What an amazing cohort of 14 that are rising to the challenge in terms of connecting people with jobs and money at this really difficult time. Hello everyone, I'm Tris. I'm the Managing Director of Nesta Challenges, and Nesta Challenges develops challenge prizes to tackle pressing problems. We look at areas where we think innovation could make a really big difference, and then we develop competitions to encourage innovators to tackle them, and then we get behind those innovators to do that. And this is a big problem. In a recent survey that we conducted, we found that 1/4 of people in the UK were already reporting to be on the breadline. 1/5 are already borrowing just to get by, and 1/3 are suggesting that this is impacting on their mental health. We all know the big problems associated with the economic effects of COVID-19. And that's why this amazing cohort of 14, we're just super excited to be working alongside these innovators in the coming months as they take on this really, really important challenge. And as you've just seen, they're tackling jobs with really, really innovative techniques using algorithms and data analysis to help people to find new jobs. Things like paid micro-internships, support for particular groups of people, the disabled and homeless, and also developing online career portals that use new methods to identify skills and match people to current vacancies. Also, in terms of money, helping people manage money. There's lots of budgeting tools in there based on leading behavioral science to help people access affordable, responsible credit through digital solutions using open banking, and also helping people to access benefits and grants. But with this particular challenge, the focus is really on scale. A big part of this challenge is how these innovators that are already having a significant impact on the quality of people's lives are going to be able to scale that up whilst retaining the quality of their interventions. So, to explore how our cohort is approaching this challenge and the strengths behind our cohort, I'm very pleased to say that we're joined by 4 of the judging panel that helped to select this final 14. So I'm very happy to be joined by Fiona Aldridge, who's the Director for Policy and Research at the Learning and Work Institute, Angela Clements, who's the founder of Fair for You and a previous Nesta Challenges winner, Chris Gordon, who's the Director of Impact and Evidence at the Youth Founders Foundation, and Faiza Shaheen, who's the Director of CLASS. And we're going to ask them a bit to talk through why they're excited about these 14, why they helped to select these 14, and what their hopes and ambitions are for them over the next year or so. But before we do that, I'd like each member of the panel just to say briefly a bit about themselves and what motivated them to take part in this judging panel, and maybe say something about what key things people will need in recovering from the economic shock. So I'm going to pick the first person on the screen for that, which is you, Fiona. Would you like to kick us off?
Yes, certainly. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. So I work for Learning and Work Institute, and we're very much focused on improving both policy and practice around learning, skills and employment. And this is a really exciting challenge to be involved in, because the issues that we're facing are issues that were there before the crisis, but issues that have been really exacerbated, and there's some really, really difficult problems to face. And so the challenge approach of encouraging risk and innovation and new ideas is really important, because actually if we try the things that we've tried before, we will still end up with some of these very long-standing issues. And so I was so delighted to see new approaches to finance, to technology, to connecting with people that I think will really help us to be able to get through some of these issues. And it was great to see so many of the applicants think about sustainability and scale, because actually these are big issues that, yes, it's important to get right, but it'll be important to get right across the country and for a whole range of different people. So really looking forward to it.
Yes, that's a good point. The need for innovation was there before, wasn't it? These problems pre-existed, but COVID has just made them so much worse, I think, Fiona. Okay, let me go to you now, Chris. Perhaps you could introduce yourself as well.
Hi, thanks, Chris. I'm Chris Golden. I'm working at the Youth Futures Foundation, which is a relatively new What Works centre focusing on tackling youth unemployment. So this fund and this challenge is really kind of important, and it's raising lots of important ideas and problems that the Youth Futures Foundation is interested in. And when I first got invited, I was still working at Joseph Rowntree Foundation, who focused on tackling poverty. So in a way, this offer to join the panel was kind of a perfect combination of both those interests for me. And yeah, obviously the impact of COVID on society and the economy, and the looming recession means that these are all too important issues for us and the people that have responded to the challenge are wanting to sort out. And yeah, they're all addressing different elements of that problem, whether it's around access to jobs, access to money to find a route out of poverty, or through access to benefits or grants to give people a bit more stability in the coming storm of the recession that is about to hit us.
And as you say, particularly hard for young people, exacerbating those big problems.
yeah, I mean, when we
I
look at
turn to you now.
Sorry, did you say me?
I did, yes.
Yeah, so I'm Faiza Shaheen. I'm the director of CLASS, the Centre for Labour and Social Studies, and we get a lot of funding from trade unions and workers' rights organisations. So do a lot of work looking at what's happening in terms of the macro trends to people in the workplace and in the labour market. So of course, we put out constant statistics about what's happening, and as soon as COVID kicked in, we had our annual publication, Labour Market Realities, where we go out and ask 2,000 workers about their experiences, but also about their worries in the year forthcoming. So that was done in April, and it probably won't surprise you to learn that, you know, almost 20% of the people asked felt like they wouldn't be in their current job or their current role in 6 months' time. I mean, that's a huge number of people that feel like they are on the edge, that they can't be confident about their work situation. We know that the claimant count has gone up massively. We know that that lots of young people and people working in the hospitality sector and on 0-hour contracts in tourism, for instance, have really seen a massive disruption to their working life. And so, you know, alongside looking at those broader trends, we also hear back from trade unions and workers on the ground about what's going on in their workplaces. And I'm also involved a lot in local community work and food banks. And I guess, you know, what attracted me to doing this is just being very aware of the need, the growing need, both in terms of just people very much on the edge. Tris, at the beginning, you just spoke about some of the stats about the number of people getting into debt. At this time, we see people coming into the food bank, it's families in very stressful situations. And I think what's great about this innovation fund is that it's got, you know, we'll put money in the pockets with some of the solutions. Others are about skills, others are about giving advice. More of a bridge building type situation from being unemployed now. Some are more deep rooted. Some look at groups that have been historically disadvantaged, like disabled people. So, you know, it gives us that opportunity to look at this problem from different viewpoints and provide different solutions specific to different groups. And look, we have to be really honest about this. Like 2021 is going to be a very, very difficult year for people. And at the last recession, as a young person myself, I was working on the Future Jobs Fund, which was a government program for young people, and did a lot of research around youth unemployment about that time, about the longer term scarring effects. And that's true not just of young people, but others as well. If you can't get back into work, you know, within 6 months, the longer it goes on, the harder it is for you then to get your life back on track. So, you know, I think the things for me that really excite me in this is that it just, whatever ways and whatever solutions they may be, we need to be throwing everything at this problem. And that goes from, yes, the typical government solutions that need to be there, and the welfare state and the rest of it, but also, yes, social innovation. And honestly, I wanted to learn about what's out there. I'm not tech savvy. I don't know about what's going on in that part of the world. And so I've learned so much from reading all of the applications, and just so impressed by the ambition of so many of these applications.
Thanks for that. And I thought the point you made about young people not being able to get into work in some instances, how that could be a long-term issue in terms of long-term scarring, is obviously a real concern that we want to overcome. Yeah, it's a good point, well made. Angela, you know what this is like. Could you introduce yourself and maybe explain how you come to be involved?
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'm Angela Clements. I founded Fair For You around 6 years ago as a challenge to high cost credit. Yes, we were very fortunate to be a winner of one of the previous Nesta challenges. And that was really huge for us in that it didn't just allow us to develop something that was outside our current business plan, that had been on the planning board for some time, that we thought was really going to be a game changer. But our investors, you know, in small businesses, you have to deliver your existing business plan. There isn't the scope to be able to go off plan and to do something that is important, no matter how important it is. And the funding from Nesta was really valuable to us. It didn't just allow us to invest in infrastructure, bring in expertise. It also brought in other partners. We were very fortunate. Iceland and Esme Fairbairn provided some funding to allow us to go even further. So it created a momentum. One of the things about the challenges is they're very short. It creates momentum, it creates excitement, it creates a whole sort of groundswell of people that get on board with your innovation and your idea. And that's a very exciting thing, but it's quite challenging as well.
Well, good sort of advert for the program for the 14 who are starting now. What support do you think, or what do you think the innovators might need to be able to do over the next 12 months, and what support do you think we might be able to offer them?
I think the cohort that have come together are really varied and very exciting. And I think what we've asked in this challenge is that all of them have the ability to scale, that it's an existing solution, but it has the potential to grow. And I think that requires not just funding from Nesta, but I think somebody mentioned earlier, it's about people getting behind those. And it doesn't just mean private companies and public companies. I think Nesta has the ability to help in that. But I think that's down to all of us to try and make sure that these organisations have the support to be able to deliver on their innovation and their exciting ideas that they've brought together.
Okay, so I'd like to pick up on something that you were talking about, Faiza, which is the different user groups that these innovators are focusing on. It's sort of, we're talking about young people, but also there's innovation that's focused on disabled people, homeless people, and so on. What do you find interesting or inspiring about that from the innovators that are in 14?
Yeah, I mean, there was just such a good variation of solutions. I think some of the things that stood out to me, so one of the programs, UDrafter, which was, and as an employer myself, UDrafter is this incredible idea to allow employers to very easily and very quickly reach out to potential interns and to tailor it for what they need and to find the right, I think that it's focused on people doing their undergraduate. And stuff like that, it's so, in a way, is so obvious, but there isn't an easy way to do that. I mean, I wish it already existed. I can think of a number of occasions over the last 5 years of me running this think tank where it would have been great if I could have just done, do you know what, let's reach out to a young intern to do this for a week, or, stuff like that. I can just see from the employer's point of view as well would be great. But then at the same time, like Hastee, which is the idea, which presented this idea of being able to draw down your money. So you're working all month. I'm sure all of us have been in this situation. Like 2 weeks in, you're already broke for whatever reason, and you can draw down part of your what you've earned so far. So those kinds of tech solutions, fintech solutions, that would fundamentally change people's lives, and the level of stress it creates when you're on the financial edge like that, I think will just help to smooth things out a little bit for people. But, I want to be clear, I mean, some of these problems are so deep-seated, and, of course, it's partly to do with, low pay and high rents and the rest of it. So we have to be clear about what we can do and what these solutions can do, what part of the problem they can fix. But what I would be really interested to learn is that once you bring all of these things together and we've tried them, and, to get the feedback about where it helps and where there are still barriers, which maybe in the next phase or when Nesta has more money to invest, we can come back to. But I think there's sort of something for everyone in there. I thought that there was even break for disabled people. One of the things that really struck me about that was it wasn't just support for out of work disabled people, but it was also they're also going to go out and talk to employers about why they should be employing disabled people, because there is unfortunately stigma and misunderstanding about employing disabled people. And so that really attracted me, because it doesn't just think about the, as we would say as economists, the supply side about what needs to happen to people that are need the skills and the rest of it, but also the demand side, asking employers to be more open-minded and ensuring that they are getting the best people, rather than, we all have inbuilt prejudices that those are coming out in who you employ. So yeah, I mean, I think across the board there's just lots of stuff for different groups, but these have been historically disadvantaged groups, so it's a real tough job.
Is it fair to say, I think of the 14 that we selected, some of them were, if you like, more aspirational in terms of social mobility, and I think you've mentioned a few of them that I think particularly appealed to some of the judges. Perhaps you're one of them. You mentioned the micro, or you mentioned the internship, the paid internship approach, and a particular focus on high skill work for people with disability as examples.
Yeah, look, the thing that is really important about this is that it disrupts what we currently do. I think there's too much that we're just used to doing that is just like, oh, the same old solutions again, bring them back from the last time we were in recession with the financial crisis. Times have changed, but also we have to admit that things haven't worked, because some of those people are still struggling today. They're the same groups again and again. The inequalities we see in this country, whether it be regional, whether it be group-based, ethnic minorities, whether it be about disabled groups, whether it be always about young people that are the first ones to see unemployment go up higher, and be on 0-hour contract jobs, right? So we need a big disruption in this, in our thinking, and that's again, I really hope that the evaluation of this really does do that and bring that out, because we've got to be jolted out of the norm, and I really do think that these ideas do that. And that we're in a pandemic. If a pandemic can't wake us up and make us do things differently after the way in which people have suffered and died and put their lives at risk to go out and work this year, and the amount of people falling out of work, then we've got a big problem. And I think this is a practical way in which Nesta is taking forward that disruption that has happened and needs to happen in the way that we're thinking.
And maybe I might come to you, Chris, in terms of this question about perhaps the risk of exacerbating issues of social mobility for young people, and how we need to do something to address that, if you like, before it sort of becomes worse. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Pfizer's right. None of these proposals are sort of addressing the fundamental structural drivers of inequality and opportunity. But what they are all doing is, in a way, they're finding ways of helping people access the help and the opportunities that are already there, but are quite hard for all of us to kind of access. So if you're thinking about the kind of training and skills development that's there, or the jobs that are still there, or the grants that are available if you're in certain circumstances and certain needs, or the benefits that are provided that are going unclaimed, a lot of these proposals are about linking individuals directly with those opportunities through technology, and that's a kind of common thread. But in a way, they're going to live and die on whether they're successful. The demand has got to be there from young people and people in low-paid work to use these apps on their phones or at home to access those opportunities. And if they work, if they are providing a service that people want and need and use, then they're going to work. And that's what's kind of is exciting, because it's throwing it out to the market to decide whether these work or not. And we can support those, and Nesta can support them to do the best they can. But having so many operating at once gives a real chance to see what works and what doesn't, and then to help scale that up. So yeah, I think we can get to scale with a lot of these, but it'll be really interesting to see which ones work and which ones don't in what kind of circumstances.
Yes, and the challenge in that some of the innovations are targeted on quite specific groups, and some of them are very, very diverse as well. And it's going to be interesting to see which achieve the greatest traction potentially in the marketplace.
The mix overall is really interesting, as Pfizer was saying.
And what about this point about that you were making, which is about how some of the innovations are sort of building on things that already are working to some extent and delivering impact, but then the challenge really, as you say, is about scaling them whilst not losing that impact. Does anyone perhaps so I might ask you about that, Angela. What's how do we think what do you think the challenges are going to be for the cohort in retaining quality whilst scaling?
Yeah, I mean, some of them I think look well placed to scale. I think that was what was so exciting. I mean, I must have just a moment to just say about the ones that we didn't choose, because I think we all, and there were some very interesting discussions. There were some really good applications that we couldn't support because there was just a limited number. So I hope that they continue to develop and to look at future challenges, because I know there's one or two that we were quite passionate about. But of the 14, I mean, this is a lot of organisations to get funding, and some of them are really well placed to scale. And I mean, some of which I've followed this and I've known about for a little while, organisations like Nesta that's working in the credit union sector. And I think we all hope and want credit unions to be part of the solution. And I think we all have wondered how that could happen better and how that could be done more in, these wonderful community-based organisations. So I've known of Nest Egg for a while, and very one that I feel very passionately has got an opportunity now to actually take what they're doing and go out wider. And I hope that it meets with people wanting to hear about that. I think I love Income Max. It's worked really well. I know that we have referred people to them for help at Fair For You, and 100% of the people we've referred to them have been helped. So it needs to scale. It must scale. That's kind of how you feel, and Turn to Us do an amazing amount of great work. So the idea of being able to take what they're doing that is brilliant and then just scale it to do much more of it, I think is, I think it's a really exciting, I'm with Chris, I'm really interested in watching what happens next, of which ones of them really take this on and really just go for it. I think that's going to be wonderful to be involved with.
And you mentioned the greater accessibility or accessibility to credit unions. There's this affordable credit space, isn't there, that currently doesn't reach that many people that you know a lot about. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think it's my biggest fear at the moment about COVID. It's going to have a very long shadow. If you can't access affordable credit when you need it, then you have to use a laundrette when your washing machine breaks, or you have to rent something, you can't buy it, or you have to use public transport, and that limits what jobs you can have. The impact on young adults of not being able to access credit has been understood for a long time, and it is a poverty premium, and it creates great hardship. But it's expensive year on year, and what we're facing at the moment is an affordable credit sector that's relatively small. We've watched a flight to quality from other credit providers, and we're seeing young adults. I mean, COVID isn't even in its impact. It's hit young adults harder in hitting their employment potential and the stability of their employment. That actually means they can't get credit. That's just that's just what the outcome of it, and that creates material poverty and deeper poverty for years and years to come, and it impacts the whole family. So I'm beyond passionate about the fact that people need to be able to access responsible, affordable credit at the times they need it for the essential items that they need. That's and I'm so delighted that so many of the solutions that we've supported will actually make a difference, I believe. And I think there will be learnings that we can take out wider, and hopefully encourage a much wider sector to come back, because that will be needed next year.
Absolutely. Affordable credit is definitely one of those things that we want to see scale. Fiona, what else are we looking forward to seeing expand and disseminate? But also, to the point, what are the challenges, do you think, with innovators doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's some great projects, and we've mentioned some of these already. I think I've been really interested in the applications that are focused around jobs, and I know that lots of previous activity has been very much focused on if you improve people's skills, then they will get a job. And I think what we found in this crisis is there's been a massive reduction in hiring, and we see businesses across the economy really struggling. And so we need to do much more than just say to people, it's your fault you don't have enough skills. We need to think really creatively about how to connect them into employers and how to work with those employers to offer flexible opportunities. And so I'm really excited about those projects which think about people's skills, but think about how they connect them into employers, and then think about working with those employers to offer the sorts of roles that people can connect with. And of course, as we've mentioned already, this was needed beforehand. The economy was already changing, what we thought was really rapidly until we had this crisis, and then we saw what rapid really was. And so I think lots of people have been thinking about it for a while, and this is a really great opportunity to try things out. So, for example, the City and Guilds work around linking transferable skills from one part of the economy to another so that people have sustainable careers, because as we've mentioned, this is going to go on for a while. There's going to be this long tail of economic impact of COVID, and we need to make sure that we've got people are supported to be resilient and to move around the economy and really thrive. I think one of the things that I've been interested to see is in the jobs element is not just about supporting people who currently don't have work, who are unemployed, although that is obviously a need, but to think about how to help people who have insecure work or low paid work to move into better work. And again, that's a really interesting challenge, because even if your work, even if it is insecure and low paid, there is some security about having a job at the minute, and none of us want to move from perhaps the convenience or the familiarity of having that into something that can be a bigger risk. And so I'm really looking for where those innovators will think about the particular challenges and the particular needs of those people who have a job, who really need it to move into a different and a better job, but have a kind of cost benefit to weigh up. And I think there's some really exciting things there that we can explore. Lots and lots to do, building on what people already know and what people can do, and helping them think about a bright future. But that work with employers to create jobs is really, really important.
Yeah, good point. Not just any job, but really quality jobs that improve people's lives. And maybe it's also not always just about money, but other things, proximity perhaps. And
absolutely. If you have children and your job has the flexibility to enable to get them to school, or to get from kind of public transport link to get home quickly if you need to, the cost of giving that up for a few extra pence per hour or for a different sort of contract is actually is much bigger than it can be, than it can appear at first glance. And really understanding some of the groups that we're seeking to target. Some projects, obviously, as we've discussed, are about people with disabilities or people in particular circumstances, but even when they're not targeted on a single group, we know people have got really complex motivations, needs, and it's great to see some of these innovations think really hard about how to support people with these.
This point also about transferable skills, and maybe this is an open question. I don't know who would like to answer this, but do we think employers are becoming more open-minded about this? And it seems to be a key tool for social mobility, frankly, but it does require this open-mindedness from employers, doesn't it? Do we think, how open-minded do we think employers are to this, perhaps, is the question.
You'll never go, Fiona?
Yeah, I'll have a go. I mean, I think it's really variable. I think when everything is disrupted, as the world is, it's always a good opportunity to try new things. But of course, it's easier if you're an employer to say, well, I've always recruited people like this and they're quite good, so I'll have some more of that. And I guess that's why I'm really interested in innovations that work with employers to help them think about, well, what skills do you really need and where might they be elsewhere in the labour market? But also to think about working with individuals to help them present their skills, reflect on them, build on them, present them in a way that is really applicable to new jobs. I mean, just as an employer, we've got the vacancies we've advertised recently, loads more applications, but what I see is people often saying to me, this is the skills I have, these are the skills I have, rather than these are how my skills would benefit your business. And I think innovations that help people think about how to sell themselves to a new environment are really important. And that's quite hard because you don't always know much about different parts of the economy, and getting people the right information and the right support and the right language and the right contacts, all those things are really important. And I see them built into some of these innovations, and I'm really excited to see what will work and what won't. And that's a great thing about a challenge, isn't it? We know that some things won't work, but there's as much to learn sometimes from trying things. And the system we have outside of the challenges doesn't always give you that amount of space to try something that might fail, might work. It could be a gem if it does, but often the consequences are too big from failure. And I really like the fact that this encourages people to try new things.
Yeah, I think it depends like what sector you're thinking about. So at Youth Futures, we've been using the applied tool for recruitment, which instead of using the normal sort of process of sending in your CV or a covering letter, it asks a set of questions and then they're anonymized and randomized to the people reviewing them, so there's there's much less scope for unconscious or conscious bias in the primary selection process. And that was an offshoot of the behavioural insights team. So it's sort of rooted in evidence, but it's also become a sort of practical tool that's being used, I think, more and more by different employers. But if you're looking at in the low paid sector, when I was at Joseph Rowntree Foundation, we did some research looking at what employers are seeking in job seekers for low paid work. And it's basically someone who can apply quickly after they put the advert out and get in quickly, but also someone who lives near where the job is. I mean, COVID has changed some of that, but I think that still applies for a lot of sectors. So as long as they can find someone who's willing to apply quickly and lives nearby, so they're reliable and they're going to turn up, those are the things they're concerned about. So yeah, it's very, very different in different sectors. So that's something we need to think about.
So do we think there are grounds for optimism then from the employer mindset, both in terms of being more open to transferable skills, but also being more aware of unconscious bias? And is that in the longer term a key part of addressing issues of social immobility? Question.
I think Faiz would be dying to answer that one.
Yeah, I'm just writing a book on social mobility, and I do really want to stress that we are one of, in terms of a high income country, I think we're the second least mobile country, and so let's just be clear about where we are on that. And of course, anything that helps is great and disrupts that, and like that you draft a program, but these things, unfortunately, that kind of class system. I ran a think tank called Class, you can imagine I'm obsessed with the issue, but the class system in the UK and still defines so much of in terms of outcomes and the extent to which you are comfortable. And let's be honest, the people losing their jobs and who will need this kind of support often aren't the people that are in the higher income groups. So I think we have to be honest about the extent to which these can disrupt age-old systems in this country of hierarchy and of who does well and who doesn't, and those structural problems. That said, that doesn't mean that we can't try and do things that throw up where the problems still exist. So again, for me, this comes back to the ability to try and innovate, like Fiona was talking about, and for community-led projects as well, where they are co-produced. Something that I was really looking at when I was looking at the applications was to see where the applicants had worked with the end users to build the tool, and that often, like doing youth groups, it's having young people say on their boards and the rest of it, and those things are really important at demonstrating best practice, and also for them to tell us, well, part of the problem we're still having, and I know this from when lots of employment programs were put in place in the early noughties, was that people would come back and say, yeah, we can get these sorts of people into work, but we're still struggling. There's a particular group of people that are, living somewhere in the country where there just aren't jobs. And the amount of times that I would do evaluations and the rest of it, and people would just say outsourced companies even would say, like it's also the demand side in the number of jobs. So you know, all of that information to come back and feed into what needs to change in the policy world is just so helpful. And individuals, where we can help individuals in various ways. So one of the things, so Turn to Us, for instance, which is a great organization that offers loads of support and advice. They put forward an application on just putting money in the pockets of people who need it in that moment, who are right on the edge. And I think, you know, we have to, that is just necessary at this time. And in some ways, some of these schemes are there just for that short term to help. And most of them can start to tell us something about what the longer term issues are and some of the intractable problems that exist and where the bottlenecks are in the system for them. And we really need to listen to that about where they can help and where it is working and just what is too much for them to solve. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that on the social mobility. I think it's great to be aspirational in what we want to achieve, but we've got a lot to sort out if we want to make this country fairer for everyone.
I suppose I'm asking, are we at a fork in the road that this pandemic has created where things could get a lot worse, but perhaps there's an alternative future where actually now's the time for the sorts of changes that you want to see happen?
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I'm sure, like, I hope that, you know, this has opened up a conversation, for instance, you know, going out and clapping key workers every Thursday. You know, a third of key workers, a third of those people that were still out delivering our post and, you know, picking up our rubbish and in our supermarkets and caring for our elderly relatives, a third of them are paid less than £10 an hour. You know, a lot of them will come to services that Angela and Fiona will be involved in. So, you know, we have to think about that, you know, how people waking up and seeing that, how that might change norms in society, and that opens up a space to try something different as well, because things are really difficult for people. But that's, yeah, but again, like, you know, there's things that these programs can do, and that's really exciting. And then I think there's like another conversation that happens on top of that, which is about the evaluation, but is also about the things that we want to say. Again, like the things that we need to say just need to change more broadly, and the role of social innovators versus what, say, government and local government needs to do. And that's helpful.
I think it's worth saying that we're quite excited about working with this cohort of innovators to support them and see the impact they can make, but also to learn so that we can help with that sort of policy discussion and debate. And that's one of the exciting things that I think about this program. You mentioned Fiona and Angela. Fiona seems to have sort of disappeared out of the ether. So I will pick up on the other person, which is Angela. This point, Angela, about the importance of engaging with people with lived experience, or even being led by people who understand these issues, and how important that is. That makes an enormous difference, doesn't it?
I think it's critical that the organisations we're working with really do hold, as they scale, the end user very central to that. That requires good governance. It requires lived experience at senior level. I think it will be a challenge. Some of them, there's a couple I can think of. I think Beam is working really well in London with community champions. I'd love to see how that goes across the country and wider, and whether they can keep that engagement with the end user driving that work. I do worry a little bit that it's very different in London to the rest of the world, it feels like at times. I hope that community side of it, on that one, I was really excited that I think that will allow them to really make that scale and reach wider. Whereas, I mean, I think Bridge of Hope is based up here in the Midlands. Now, you know, again, it's about taking what they're doing in a region and being able to scale it across the UK. I don't know if you know, if all of the issues are the same in every community, I suspect there'll be different barriers for these organisations to face as they try to go UK wide. I'm sure Chris and Facey have got more experience around that, but I hope and I believe that actually what we've seen in these organisations is the desire to do that. That's the first part, understanding the customers they're serving and wanting to actually deliver that much wider. I mean, that's a great place to start, really. Then they've got to learn fast, and they do need everybody to get behind them. And I hope that's what we can drive as a team from Nesta, I hope.
An interesting point about so a number of these innovations have a kind of a blended approach, which is some of it is about technology and scale, but some of it is about real world interaction and engaging with people. But those two things are then difficult in terms of scaling, would you say?
Yes, I would. I mean, I think as you go for scale, it gets sometimes harder to remember to listen very carefully to the end user voice. You have to make sure that's what built into what you're doing. I mean, I was really excited. I think the UK Youth one was one that struck a chord with, I seem to remember all of us as we talked about this, trying to be able to link in what the youth workers are actually doing on the ground day to day against bringing some sort of digitalisation into that. And I think that was what we saw probably across the board, is a mix of real people doing amazing things, and then seeing how they could actually do much more of it through investing in infrastructure and some of the digital sort of era, which, I mean, certainly for affordable lenders, that expansion of sort of payment services and digital services has actually flattened the playing field. It's allowed some of us, allowed Fair for You to get going, quite frankly, in a way that would never have been possible 10 years ago. So I'm very excited that I hope these organisations can see how they can use that technology to just deliver much more, much wider. That would be great to watch.
Welcome back, Fiona.
Thank you. We're just saying this is a 2020 problem, isn't it? But it really highlights how dependent you become on technology. And just to link it to the discussion, I guess I really liked where projects linked the technology to people, because technology in itself isn't always the answer, and actually linking it to that face-to-face sometimes, or that kind of speaking to a person is really important when things like this happen.
Or I was thinking, you know, speaking to your peers through the app. So a lot of social media is about interacting with others on the same basis, and there's a kind of equalizing element to it.
Yeah.
So some of the proposals were thinking about that side of things too, and I think again that could be really important in helping to scale up and sort of spread awareness of the things that are out there to help by way of skills or grants or income.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. Some of these innovations are building on, I mean, innovation is a word that gets overused and abused, I think, a bit, doesn't it? But it's building on things that already works, I think, in some places. Would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I think in terms of the principles of how these things scale and interact, I guess there's a growing awareness of what makes for a good experience and what doesn't. So yeah, a lot of these are building on what we know from that, but also the teams that have put the proposals together have huge experience in this space as well, and that really showed through in a lot of the applications.
And plenty of examples as well, I suppose, of things that have gone wrong, or things to look out for, perhaps. I don't know whether any of you would like to talk about that in terms of what needs to be overcome in terms of scaling, in terms of getting it right.
Well, I'm happy to add in that I think one of the challenges will be bringing in quality people very quickly, bringing in the right expertise. I think one word of advice I would give is to make sure the fit's right, make sure you're bringing in people who really do buy into what you're really trying to do. And but I think that's one of the challenges, is to most of these organisations are going into a new world really for them, and I think that's a very exciting time, but bringing the right people in very quickly will be a challenge.
You can get technology scaling wrong. quite easily. Is what
Very
you're
easy to spend a lot of money, not always easy to spend it exactly where you're meant to, but those are areas that there's good expertise around, definitely.
Yeah,
I think part of it is designing it in a way that you get that feedback as you go along, and another feature across the applications was that they were thinking about that. So the way they were scaling was building in testing and learning and co-producing with users. So whenever we sort of saw those elements, they scored higher than others.
And any more? So I think the technology point is a good point, and also the user testing and the iteration as a way of mitigating that. Any other sort of words of warning?
I think there's something about really understanding your end user. And some of the applications, they're taking something that has worked for a different group of people and has real potential for a new audience. And it is exciting to take things that have worked perhaps for people in a better financial position or more secure employment and think about how other people could have access to that. But I think really thinking about, well, how would it need to change and adapt to really meet the needs of this group of people? And I think, as we've already said, involvement of that end user and really understanding their experience and what they need from it will be incredibly important in making sure that it best supports them and that there are any suitable modifications that are needed for their different circumstances.
Useful advice, I think. Any other advice from you, Faiza? What would you wish to draw to the cohort's attention?
I mean, I think a lot of it's already been said, but I guess one thing, I think sometimes we can get into like tech solutions and really try and almost kind of overdo it a bit. And sometimes it's like keeping it simple is best. Again, like all of that stuff can be found when you talk to end users about what works and what doesn't and what would suit their needs. So yeah, I guess it's that. And also just, for those that are doing a kind of skills-based focus or, just trying to give people the skills and then trying to do that job matching thing, I guess, yeah, just to remind you that this year we had like the biggest rise in redundancies on record. We had one of the biggest falls in vacancies. And, some of this might be really tricky in the current environment because of that lack of demand. And, people might find that, I can imagine it will be a bit demoralizing for some of these where there's just that block that you can't control. But then again, that's really helpful for us to know, because too often the story is about, making people that are out of work the problem, when in my experience, it's not that people don't want to work. It's not that people don't want to learn the skills or don't even have the skills. I mean, often they already have them. It's that suitable jobs that give them a decent level of pay and also flexibility if they do have young children, etc. They're just not around and convenient for them to get to, depending on where they are in the country. So, I guess, yeah, just to say to those organizations that are going to be working on that supply side and struggle when they just can't match people up because they're just not, employers don't have the jobs right now. It's just, that is the nature of the job market right now. And any information on where those blocks are is still incredibly helpful for policymakers and policy thinkers like me.
I'd like to just, maybe the final 5 minutes, it might be interesting just to explore whether or not we think there's opportunities for crossover between these two streams. So we've got innovations that are tackling or helping people better access training and jobs. And then we've got another cohort that are tackling access to money and financial management and so on. Now, we thought it was a good idea to do that together because we think you're often targeting the same groups of people. Do we think there's any opportunity for some of these cohorts to cross-fertilize or learn from one another or work together? And maybe, I don't know who wants to go first.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, you could link the ones that are based on apps together so that there's an advert for a job one or a finance one if you're using one of them. So there might be sort of crossover and scaling we can do across them as a cohort. And a lot of the time you need money before you can get a job, so you need to be able to buy the right clothes and get the right equipment to do the kind of Zoom interview, or other things that you need before you can start to think about getting a job. So that both are important, but yeah, there may be ways we can link them up to make it greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, as we were reading the applications, we were looking at all the ways in which there could be connections that it'd be great to have this piece of innovation and then match it to this one. And we recognised it's a competition, but we do think that there is, by putting them together, I think we do get more than the sum of their parts. And as Chris says, there's such a strong connection between the money that you have and the job that you do. At its very simplest level, the job that you do gives you the money that you have, but also if you've got financial worries, it's really hard to think about developing your skills, taking a risk on a new job. If your job exhausts you and you're really down with it, then kind of thinking about putting the time aside to think about maximizing your income and managing your finances, well, they are so connected. So I think it's quite exciting that the two are together, and it'll be great to see how some of these innovators do try and make those connections, because as Chris said, they're often the same people, and what we don't want them to do is to have to go in lots of different places to sort out lots of disconnected issues, when the value would be about bringing them together.
I suppose there's the bringing together of apps, which is one way, but there's also just perhaps communication, sort of marketing some of these things together potentially. I don't know. What do you think? Is this a little naive, Angela, Pfizer?
I think it is a competition. That's one of the things that slightly goes against it. But I know we, as one of the semi-finalists and then finalists last time, we were really interested in what the others were doing. So we learnt loads, and several of those organisations we talked to a lot, and are still talking to. So I think there's. There is no doubt that there's an opportunity to highlight some of the great work and some of the developments going on in these organisations, and I hope that's amongst the other applicants as well as the wider world. I think that the fact that Nesta are actually able to support these gives you a platform to go out and tell everybody what you're doing. There's nothing bad can come out of that for these guys.
Is it possible? I don't know. Are we going to know if people are using the same people are using different apps and services? Because I'd be really interested in that, about, almost like a timeline of someone, unfortunate enough to find themselves in a situation where their job's gone, where do they go to first? Maybe it's the benefit income maximizer or something. Then do they go to something else? Like, in a way, like, what's that journey that they go on, and what different things do they need at different parts of that situation where they want to, that bridge back into work, meaningful work, and hopefully well-paid work that they like. So, and for different groups. So if there's a way, actually, that's a note for Nesta, about if there's any way to understand that journey and what people need at different points.
That seems very important. I agree. Well, look, we're about to run out of time. I don't know if anyone would like to say very briefly what their hopes are for the Rapid Recovery Challenge and what they'd like to see happen in over the next year or so.
I mean, I guess I really just hope that they work. I mean, people need these sorts of things, and I just love to see what really does work and people can, find useful when the demand is high, and then to see that scale up. And not just here, I'm doing more international work right now as well, and where we could really send that out, because it's not just the UK that's in a recession. But so yeah, I'm just really excited to see where the chips fall on each of these.
Well, that's a great note to finish on. We're all really excited. We're going to get behind these 14, and we're going to learn an awful lot in doing so. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Our solution will impact the individual by helping 100,000 low-paid workers recover financially from COVID-19, accessing affordable loans which will save them over £10 million in interest payments. We'll pull thousands of people back from their credit card limits and increase credit scores, making it easier to access affordable credit. These workers will save as they borrow, with total savings balances of £10 million by 2023. Our unique shared overview of financial health will transform the system by shining a light into the black box of credit assessment.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by providing thousands of the UK's most disadvantaged job seekers with tailored support. Getting into well-paid and stable work has a transformative impact for the individuals using Beam. It means financial security and a massive boost to self-belief. Employers from in-demand sectors such as healthcare and logistics will also benefit by getting quality, committed candidates from a diverse pool of talent. Levelling the playing field for employment opportunities means that everybody wins.
Our solution will positively impact the individual and the system. Skills bridges help make the invisible visible, enabling individuals to showcase their skills and get them ready to move into jobs that have high vacancies. An individual will not only gain confidence, but also insight into what it takes to be successful in today's jobs. We know there are growth industries that are crying out for staff. Our solution will create inroads into solving the imbalance of people, skills, and employment.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by reducing the financial stress created by difficult situations. For vulnerable people, managing income and spending is critical to their financial well-being. While it's difficult to increase one's income, controlling spending is achievable. The goal of spending plan is to help people maximise the money they have, resulting in a reduction of financial stress. Making the tool as accessible as possible is a key aspect of spending plan, allowing us to scale and reach as many vulnerable people as possible.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by filling the gaps in existing provision to ensure that every disabled person who is looking for meaningful and sustainable employment has access to the support they need. This means that employers can find the talented people with all the skills and qualities they need for the new ways of working after COVID. Our vision is for every disabled person who wants to work to have the same opportunities as everyone else, and for the economy to gain the benefit of the amazing skills that this currently untapped pool of talent offers.
Our solution will help you and have an impact on the system by highlighting how little known benefits can make a big difference to your personal finances. It will show you how your income can change from month to month, helping you to keep track of your expenditure, and it'll link to DWP's Find a Job service, helping you to be better off in work much faster. My Benefits Calculator will help you to access the widest possible range of support. It'll put you in control of your money and help you to take steps toward financial independence. And that will help, in turn, all of us to recover faster from the effects of COVID-19.
Our solution will impact the individual and systems by demonstrating real and significant benefits, with more people getting into jobs, more people gaining information and support through our careers portal, more jobs being advertised for marginalised people, increased social mobility, better well-being with increased confidence and social participation for us all.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by enabling the management of the two parallel needs that currently exist. The immediate requirement for career support and flexibility as the nation's economy recovers, and the future needs of the individual for fulfilling, rewarding work, and the economy for a skilled, engaged, and productive workforce. The Rapid Recovery Challenge will accelerate our ability to have impact at scale and help us achieve our target of supporting 1 million young people in the next 3 years.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by giving young people an opportunity to showcase their value to employers. UDrafter accelerates the speed that employers engage with young people. Employers will no longer say, "You don't have enough experience." They'll say, "When can you start?" Instead of being exploited by unpaid internships, all opportunities on UDrafter are paid, and all work experience is captured and curated, giving young people the tools to shine, get paid, get experience, and get ahead.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by empowering young people with the access to support and guidance they need, initially to recover from this financial shock, but also to make informed, supported choices about their financial futures. And will impact systems change by driving digital innovation in youth work settings, upskilling youth workers in community spaces to provide support in new ways, ultimately creating greater reach and deeper impact.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by giving young people, low paid and those in insecure roles, the ability to control when they receive the money they've already earned. It will break the monthly pay cycle that forces people into financial stress and debt. On top of that, we provide financial education and management tools that will help people make better decisions and control their finances.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by allowing users to quickly access vital support funds, which enable them to purchase critical provisions for their families, keep a roof over their heads, or avoid being trapped in an expensive debt spiral. Providing monetary support rather than in-kind items offers a dignified route for people to cover immediate costs, empowering them to make decisions and build greater long-term financial resilience.
Our solution will impact the individual and the system by creating a human-centred digital channel which will help overcome the challenges people face trying to maximise income and access money. Using a design-centred approach, we'll work together with the people we help and the systems that exist to create a digital service that is joined up and works for everyone. At the moment, the system is broken. Billions of pounds of financial support go unclaimed every year, and individuals miss out. Our Income Max digital channel will fix the channels and overcome the challenges of maximising income.
So our solution will impact the individual and the system by enabling the next generation of talent to work with the companies building the services and technology of the future. Together, we'll improve the diversity and accessibility of the UK's digital sector, which will have an incredible impact on its future.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming along to our event today. It's been amazing to share the news, voices and thoughts from both our innovators and our judging panel with you today in some really important and timely discussion. We'll be sharing developments of the challenge and the learnings over the next few months, so be sure to keep an eye on what our semi-finalists are up to. You can follow us on Twitter at Nesta Challenges or visit our webpage rapidrecovery.challenges.org to stay in touch and up to date. And do reach out to us with any questions, requests or ideas in the next few months. Thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.